This is a little overview of the course, How to Be 10 Times More Organized. First step is to identify your roles, all the hats you wear. So a role is a major category in your life requiring quality time for you to be fulfilled. Of course, you want to think big with this. I'm a musician, so I tend to think in musical terms. So if you think about your favorite band's set list, you have all the great classic songs, and you have a couple new ones that the band is working on, and this makes up the set list. Just like for you, you won't have a list of songs. Of course, you'll have the list of your roles that you play. There are a lot of benefits to identifying all of your roles. One key one is that when you're in crisis, you won't think your entire life is in crisis or that you are wrong or damaged. You'll just realize that it's one piece of you. Also, it's a good way to see what you want to move forward towards and create roles that you can move into. Now, an important step is to brainstorm your passions, hobbies, and interests. What do you like? What do you love? And you make a list of these things. And the reason we do this is to start getting those ideas out, start thinking big. And you'll probably see that some of these passions, hobbies, and interests will become some of your roles. Here's an example of someone who listed all their passions, hobbies, and roles. And Tracy said that, family and spirituality and all of these others. And the ones in red I wanted to talk about because they ended up becoming roles for Tracy. Like she mentioned, she loves yoga and she teaches yoga every week. And when asked if there was anything that she would be miserable if she didn't have in her life, she was like, hey, being a yoga instructor, being a yogi is so important to me. So that became one of her roles. She said she loves Spartan races and doing that. So this became an adventurer, that she really loves the adventurer of it when she delved more deeply into it. And she was a cancer survivor, so that became one of her roles. She was on the board of No Stomach for Cancer. She loved roller derby. In fact, she joined a local team, became a roller derby queen. So that became one of her roles. She even picked out a nickname. Of course, every roller derby person needs a nickname. She was Holly Wanna Crack Ya. And she had an interest of learning Japanese, and it became a much bigger part in her life, her professional life, because as a director of leadership, she ended up having to learn Japanese, and it led to another job in Japan. So that became a role for her. So there are 4 types of roles: mind, body, spirit, giving and receiving, personal, and professional. Now, mind, body, spirit, that's really you as a person. Before you're all these other things, a sister or a brother or a spouse or relationships, friends, hobbies, all that stuff, you're you as a person. So your mind, what keeps your head straight? How do you feed your mind? How do you learn? Everyone should have a body role to maintain your body strong and lean, and a spirit, whatever that is for you. Giving and receiving. This I see as what is the input and what is the output for your life. So a lot of people will put, that they're a philanthropist or a giver or a volunteer. And for the receiving part, this is the financial piece. And of course, everyone should have a financial role too. How are you managing money? Do you consider yourself to be a wealth builder or an investor or whatever else, a millionaire, a billionaire? Whatever feels right for you. And remember, we're thinking big. There's no harm and no shame in giving yourself a role that you're not actually doing right now. You can call yourself a millionaire and say that's one of your roles and you're working towards it. Or an investor or a philanthropist, even though you're not at all the black tie events. Personal roles. This is what you would consider as the usual roles: relationships, hobbies, as in Tracy's example, an adventurer, or some sort of a personality type of role. It could be your race. It could be sexuality. Whatever you feel has to be represented. Professional. Of course, this is your occupation, but more importantly, it's all of the other roles that you would need to take on to keep moving forward. Maybe you have something on the side. Maybe you're becoming an entrepreneur. All of that. So then you start to get a whole list of different roles to play. Sales, public speaking, technology, networking, marketing, all that. So here are some examples of role lists. David, biomedical engineer, and here are some of his roles. As you see in the professional, he has a bunch of supportive roles for his general role as a biotech engineer. He's also got something on the side. He's becoming a consultant. And when I talked with him, that he was really interested in the research part and the consulting part. So this led him to found his own company. For Tracy, as you see, her yoga instructor and roller derby queen, adventurer, which we spoke of, the board member for the cancer, and again, supportive roles for her profession. A college student. Notice how in the giving and receiving, she gave herself a money smarts role, which really she was reluctant to. She felt she didn't even make enough money to have a financial role, but she was encouraged to have that. Everybody should have that, no matter what the age. Aaron as a cybersecurity expert. And when I pressed him on the surfer role, I was like, well, when he came up with his passions, hobbies, and interests and said surfer, I was like, well, isn't that more of a hobby or interest? And he goes, no, that's a role. That's a part of my identity. If I don't surf, so many times a week or whatever, then I just don't feel myself. Recovering addict as an important role for him to always be represented. So today you're going to identify your roles. You're first going to brainstorm all your passions, hobbies, and interests, and then have your role list. And you'll have you could just make a simple quadrant with the 4 different types, and you'll get a workbook, and then go through all those roles and assess them 1 to 10 on a scale, 1 meaning miserable and 10 meaning perfect. And this will give you a good idea of all the moving pieces in your life. Much easier to manage things that you can see, and you're not inside it, you're not in it. You can get out and see all those moving pieces from above. That's the value of having these identified different roles and the different hats you wear. Another helpful thing is to write each role on an index card and put them out in front of you. And then you can see all these pieces, because later on we'll be doing goals for all of our roles, and you can use these index cards for a lot of different things. You could spread out all of your role index cards, kind of like solitaire, and underneath each role card you can list your questions for each role. You could list the goals for each role, all those sort of things, your mission and your whys and your purpose for each role, all under all these index cards. Thanks for joining me.